About 5 years ago, I was having no real job. I used to do odd jobs or any work I could get my hands on. Once, I got a reference of a man named Graham who wanted someone to look after his house for 2 days over the weekend while he and his family was out. I immediately got in contact with him. He seemed to be a really good guy. The only rule he had was no visitors when he was out of town. I did not mind it, as anyways I was not going to call anyone. I went to his house on Friday night as he was leaving. He gave me his contact number in case of any emergency. He left soon and it was just me in the house. His house was a decent sized house with 3 bedrooms. The downstairs bedroom belonged to Graham and his wife. He had given me the guest bedroom which was on the second floor. It was already late by the time Graham left, so I locked all the doors and immediately went off to sleep. My sleep was disturbed by some sound coming from downstairs. I got up to listen carefully. It was someone's footsteps. Before I could do anything, I realized whoever it was coming up the stairs. The steps soon reached my room's door. I laid in my bed like a statue, waiting for something to happen. After a few moments of silence, the steps moved away from the door and soon I could hear nothing. As scared as I was, it was now my job to see if there was any intruder in the house. Graham had installed security sensors on all doors and windows, so it should have alerted me on anyone breaking in the house. I quietly began checking rooms one by one. When I came downstairs, I checked each and every door and window. I also checked the sensors to see if they were working. They were working perfectly. As I was going back to my room, I was stunned to see Graham's room's light turned on. I was scared beyond what I can even describe. I went to his room and opened the door. There was no one inside. I checked everywhere, under the bed, inside the closet, in the bathroom. There was no one. I was beginning to think that maybe Graham had forgot to turn the light off while leaving and I did not remember checking on the light before I went to sleep. I switched off the light and went back upstairs. As weird as it was, I knew I had heard those footsteps loud and clear. Getting back sleep was hard, but I managed to get some decent sleep. The next morning, I had forgotten everything about the previous night. I got up, cleaned the house, and then it was just me, the TV, and my mobile. That entire day was uneventful. I had to pass one more night, and I was free. That night, my sleep was once again disturbed by the same footsteps I had heard the previous night. I opened my eyes and noticed something was different. This time, the footsteps were coming from inside my room. I got up on my bed and looked around. Again, there was no one. I knew I was not dreaming, it was real. I was about to call Graham when suddenly some invisible force tried to push me down on the bed. I struggled very hard and was finally able to get up. I immediately ran out of the room and out of the house. I got in my car and reached my home in 15 minutes. I called Graham and told him what happened. He acted all surprised and concerned, but even on the phone I could make it that he was faking this reaction. He was way over the top on the phone. I told him that I am not going back to his house and hung up. To be honest, I think Graham knew something was wrong about his house and intentionally chose not to tell me. He did not try to get in contact with me again. And yes, I did not get paid for the 2 days I wasted there. I always knew that ghosts and spirits do exist, but getting a first-hand experience on it was really surreal. I was in college when once we went on a hiking trail in a nearby nature reserve. It was me and 3 of my other friends. It was a decent trail with nice scenic locations. After spending about an hour or two, one of my friends, whom I'll call Jay for privacy reasons, suggested we go off the trail for some time to see other locations in the reserve. We all agreed to the idea. After about 10 or 15 minutes, we observed that the vegetation was growing thicker and thicker as we were moving ahead. We soon realized it was not a great idea and decided to go back to the trail. As you would have guessed it, we did not remember the exact direction we came from and lost our way. It was going to be dark in an hour or so. We had to think quickly. I had lost all hopes when I spotted the top of a house a little ahead. We had to go to that house to ask for directions so that we could go home. It did not take much time to reach the house. The house was a nice one, but something about it was not right. We went towards the front door and rang the bell. It was evident that the bell did not work. Jay tried to look in through the window but could see no one. I tried knocking on the door when I saw that the front door was open. We went inside, and by looking at the state of the furniture, we knew that the place was probably abandoned. We went through all the rooms on the first floor, but there was no one as we thought. The second floor was vacant too. We were about to leave when we heard something. All of us went silent to hear what it was. It was like wooden floor creaking under some pressure. The sound was consistent, as if coming from some kind of wooden instrument. I was standing right beside the door. I brought my ears close to the door, and I immediately knew that the sound was coming from the other side of the door. Jay tried the door handle and it opened easily. The door led to a dark basement. The entrance to the basement was L-shaped, so we could not see what was down there. Against our better judgment, we went down to see what was making that noise. As we reached the bottom of the stairs, the noise became much louder. It was a large basement with a small window on the top corner of one of the walls. But that was not the first thing we saw. My eyes immediately fell on an old man who was sitting in a rocking chair. It was the chair which was making that noise. Before we could say anything, the man stopped and turned around to look at us. There was a fair distance between the man and us, but I could still see that the man's face had an angry expression. We all stood like a statue when we all saw a dark figure coming in from the other side of the basement. The figure did not appear to have legs, as it was gliding on thin air. I could feel my legs shaking, but it was about to get much worse. The figure stopped beside the man. We could see that the figure also had unusually long fingers with pointed nails, giving it a much more terrifying look. The man stood up and suddenly began screaming. But it was not a normal scream. It felt as if the whole house was about to collapse on us. We quickly ran up the basement and were out of the house in seconds. We kept running for about 5 or 10 minutes. Fortunately, we found the trail quickly and were out of the reserve just a little after dark. I never really believed in the paranormal, but this incident surely turned me into a believer.